everyone. Welcome to the Bible Belt Bros Grandpas, because my back has been killing me the last few days.
So, well, mine's hurting today too, but it's because I slept on the couch last night.
Oh, you in trouble. Oh, trouble man on the doghouse.
No, and I guess that is what I sound like. I didn't even think about that. Nope, baby boy wanted to sleep on the couch, or wanted to sleep downstairs.
Gotcha.
And I didn't want him sleeping down there alone.
I don't know if you noticed this, Andrew, but Sunday morning, I'm so old. I sat in the bleachers all Saturday watching my son run track, and then my posture was terrible. It didn't hurt Saturday, but like when we got back after driving back and stuff, and then I started working outside on a little bit of things, and then like I could just feel it tightening to the point where could not move. Like I had to have Shay help me getting out. She had to put my socks on Sunday morning. So I felt like, in a story in the Bible where the Israelites are in battle and Moses has to keep his arms up and he needs help by people. That's what I felt like Sunday morning. I had like a TENS unit on my back, like the entire Sunday morning, just like trying to keep it loose. That's funny. And I was just like standing and like bouncing a little bit, but not my typical movement. But yeah, it's getting a little better now. I'm one of those guys that once it starts feeling just a bit better, I stop taking all the medicines. And so I probably prolonged.
Well, see, I'm the guy, I just take one ibuprofen for any ailment, and then I'm good. It's that miracle drug for me.
You take one, or do you take four?
I take one
time.
I take one, but it's an 800 milligram.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so I'm still like some mornings a little. Like this morning, I'm like, I feel a little bit. Should probably do a little something, a little movement. We're standing. Maybe that'll help instead of me just sitting down immediately. Yeah. So I kind of was thinking, like, man, I'm old. I'm getting old. And then you start hearing all these jokes of, like, on Full House, Jesse would have been born. If the Full House TV show came out today, Jesse would have been born in 2003.
Oh, my.
Because he was only 23 on the show.
Wow.
So, like, throwing things like that in perspective of, like, holy moly, I'm old.
Wow, that's when we graduated.
I know. So just thinking in those terms. One, those guys all look like way older.
They did.
Back then. Like, I don't know what the difference is. Like, they're aging.
23? They look 40s.
Well, the character was at least 23. Who knows how much he actually was. You know how that works in acting. But it was just more of the concept of, like, I've seen pictures of, like, Tim Allen. This is Tim Allen back in his 30s. And I'm like, what? Like, I don't know anybody in their 30s that looks that old. Yeah. Like, it's just crazy. But it made me start thinking, like, back in the day stuff. And I remember growing up in Iowa, a town of 500 people. And one of the things when it came to how they paid their pastors, because 500 people, how are you going to have full-time youth pastor, full-time pastors
music,
and stuff? And what they had was houses that the church owned. That was, one of them was like, it might have all still been on the grounds of the church property, technically, because one was like on the opposite side of the parking lot was a house of the main pastor, and then like right next door to the church was the youth pastor's house. And so it just got me thinking, like, you don't see that as often today. Like, the government provides like what's called a housing allowance that at least part of your income isn't taxed until you get to whatever your living expenses are. And that was designed so some pastors and churches, they don't get to choose where they live, right? They get sent out to churches. Right. And so sometimes like a good old boy from St. Charles, Iowa would go become a pastor in Tulsa. Well, the cost of living's different. Right. And so you got to like, massively. How do you adjust that? And so that's part of, I think, why that exists, that housing allowance, because it kind of gives you a little bit of a buffer, not a one-for-one buffer, but a little bit of a buffer of the change of just living in the area that you're serving, churching local.
You're talking about parsonages, and I actually lived in one. When Dad took a job to be the youth pastor in Cassville, we got a parsonage. And so we did live. It was at the bottom of the hill, right below the church. It was on the church grounds. Okay. It was small, and there were, 4 boys in there, and then Mom and Dad. Matter of fact, I had an air mattress. No, it was an actual bed, but in the laundry room. So couldn't do laundry at night. And
so weird. Can't do laundry at night, guys. Time for bed. So what I wanted to do was talk about the kind of maybe the positive and negatives of having one of those in today's world.
A parsonage or
a pear tree. Sorry.
All right.
Yep.
Or the housing allowance.
We can talk about both.
Okay.
I don't really have a plan.
Okay.
we can talk about the good and bads of the housing allowance, which I don't know how long you could talk about that, or in the good and bads of, instead of a housing allowance, just having your house be provided by the church.
Yeah. Perfect.
So good idea. Well, housing allowance was just, it's nice. So there's personal benefits to a housing allowance, right? So you can buy maybe even a bigger house.
Right.
Because real estate is an investment.
Yep.
Right.
Correct.
And so for the person of pastor or youth pastor or whatever, like they're building some equity while they're here.
Yes.
And they're able to kind of do that a little bit somewhat tax-free when it comes to their mortgage payments.
At least part of it is.
Right,
Maybe not all, but yeah, part.
Because what a housing allowance is basically like, I think how it works. I can't remember. I've only been on it a couple years of my life. But I think that the housing allowance had to deal with, so let's say my house, my yearly mortgage and stuff was 10 or 15K a year. I could claim that and provide then the receipts. You know, I had to claim it at the beginning of the year what I expected it to be, and then make sure that my receipts for whatever qualified would add up to that number. And then that number was like basically tax-free income.
Gotcha.
I mean, I still was
did that include maintenance and repairs?
I think so. Like there was some stipulations, but I think it wasn't just your mortgage payment. Gotcha. It was some like the cost of living. Like think of it like a 1099 when you do your taxes and you have a 1099, like you can write off like your office space and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of similar to that mindset of how you would, like, obviously it's not office space and things like that, but it's like maybe internet stuff, all that.
So do youth pastors get more than main pastors? Because typically youth pastors have kids at their house all the time. Youth kids.
Well, it would be like whatever house that they buy. Like if they bought $1 million mansion.
I get that, but to me it's not apples to apples. Why would a pastor who doesn't have as many people over to his house as often get more than a youth pastor who would have, has kids there all the time?
Because the government has no idea how churches work.
Just ask me, I'll tell you.
Well, I mean, pastors would have had kids too. They're not celibate.
No, I'm not talking their own children.
Oh,
youth kids.
Rusty and Megan were pastors, and they've had youth kids at their. I'm just joking. Because he was a pastor.
Yeah, because he was a youth pastor and never shed the youth kids.
Well, yeah, he has a youth pastor heart for sure.
Yeah.
But he also had kids in youth ministry.
You're right.
Yeah.
I know I have youth kids at my house all the time. Can I get us?
Exactly. Maybe get ordained.
Yeah.
But then I think that money has to come. You still have to get paid from the church. You can't. Okay. I did look at that. Can I?
We are both ordained.
We are both ordained. So technically we would qualify if a church would ever want to pay us.
So any churches out there listening.
Anybody want to pay us? Anybody?
All we want is a housing allowance. That's it. We don't even need an hourly wage or anything.
Actually, it might not be a bad idea.
Right?
We'll podcast for your church.
For a housing allowance. So can you be on staff at multiple churches and get multiple housing allowances?
I don't think that's how it works.
Oh.
I don't think you can double claim, like you can't double claim your kids.
Dang. You can't?
No.
Oh, I've been doing my taxes all wrong.
Yeah, I know. My ex-wife gets to claim my kid every year. That's why I always end up paying like $7,000 in taxes.
Sounds like you didn't have a good attorney.
I didn't have an attorney. That was the problem.
Anyways.
I'd never done it before, Andrew. I didn't know what to expect.
And that's why you hire someone who has.
That was before ChatGPT. I couldn't represent myself very well.
That's true.
I was just Googling things that some of them didn't apply.
All right. So back to parsonages. Yeah. Where were we? We were trying to con our way into it.
We were just talking about positives of having a housing allowance. So I think the biggest one is, one, that person can live anywhere. They're not with the housing allowance. They can live in whatever house suits their family best.
Yeah.
And then 2 is they then can build up some equity themselves, because their house is when they do end up leaving their house, they could sell it and have some equity and be able to move maybe somewhere else.
Yeah.
But also, youth pastors don't stay around long enough typically to gain equity.
Correct.
So that's the
Yeah, I
other
think
side
you
of
need
it.
about 3 years to start gaining equity. Now, take out our past few years where equity was almost instant, which, the market has subsided and it's no longer instant equity. Matter of fact, right now you're struggling to get it. But yes, they don't stick around long enough usually. And those that do, well, good for them.
Good for them. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah. So as far as housing allowance, I mean, that would also be my biggest thing. I'm in real estate, and so that's really, to me, that's the route I would look at it. Is it's equity. When you do move, you can cash out, and you essentially got a bonus.
And like you said, when you did live in a parsonage, that you were kind of crammed in there because you had more kids than rooms, and not, when you have a housing allowance, then a family can fit in a house that actually fits their family.
Yes.
Because let's say, a good way of church growth is just having more babies. So they want to grow their church, they should have 5-bedroom parsonages.
All right, so should we talk about parsonages?
Okay, so parsonage, let's see, how does that work?
Wait, or should we do cons of
housing allowance? I guess we should do that.
Yeah, sure. Since we did pro.
Okay, what is a con?
Potentially would get something that is outside of your budgets. That the housing allowance wouldn't necessarily cover.
So bad stewardship.
Yes, exactly.
Getting something out of...
Which, you're a 20-something youth pastor, that's probably going to happen. You're like, oh, I get a housing allowance, I can afford this now. But really, you're buying at the top of your budget instead of near the bottom.
Con, if you're not there long enough and you've purchased a house,
yes,
then you're stuck with the good old...
Trying to sell
it, and you're upside down on it still, and all that kind of stuff. So I guess if you suck at your job,
then don't buy a house.
Because and I had looked into at one point like being a youth pastor again, like years ago, and when I was like, what would it take? Blah blah blah. It would take me moving somewhere, ideally, and I didn't want to do that. So that was...
You don't think you could do it in Sand Springs?
I would just say you're waiting for somebody to get fired to get there. There's not a lot of opportunity. It's like being an NFL quarterback, baby. So, like there's only 32 teams in this city, and I gotta wait for one of those guys to.
But we're in the Tulsa Metro, so you literally have thousands of churches at your disposal. And
that was the other side of it. Is there was some opportunities at other churches? Not like I was given jobs or anything, but like some possibilities that, I could go here. I don't want to go to that church. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that church doesn't fit. Like I want to make my family go to a church that just because I want to do youth on Wednesdays. You know what I mean? So
here's a con to a housing allowance for me is you can live outside of your community.
That's true.
To me, I feel if you're going to be a pastor or a youth pastor, you should live in that community. So the struggle is going on in that community.
Yeah, I agree. You do have, I think it's a major problem. I heard one pastor say about another church kind of in the lower income side of Tulsa, but then has this house in a nice developing neighborhood.
Yeah, South Tulsa.
Like $600,000, $400,000 houses, and so he's living outside of those means, but he's making use. It's like that double-edged sword because he's making use of at least some opportunity with the housing allowance.
Yeah.
And so he's gaining some equity. He's having a more secure place, but he's not in the community and feeling what they're feeling, like you're saying. So, yeah, it kind of like separates you a little bit from your congregation.
That scenario is completely, I can't say completely, quite a bit different because he wants nice things, but he knows the area in which he pastors, you can't have nice things because other people will just take them. And so, it's that double-edged, you're right. I don't know.
And I think it's easy in a place like Tulsa, like to do that. It's easy in Tulsa to live in Sand Springs, and pastor a church in Jinx, or be a youth pastor in Jinx. It's just like we're so used to commuting. My wife commutes 30 minutes to work every day, so like a lot of people, like you're about to commute an hour, one way, and so like you have all of those things. Like that's kind of our typical expectation, and so we kind of thrown that into, we can live wherever we want to live in Tulsa. Well, I'm going to be in a community every day, but it's still different,
It is. Yeah. And even at that, Tulsa, each side of Tulsa, north, south, east, west, completely different. So to me, it'd be hard if you lived in East Tulsa, you wouldn't understand what West Tulsa is like. And I hear this every day in real estate. I hear it all the time. Oh, I don't want to live in West Tulsa.
Yeah.
I don't want to live in Sand Springs because that's West Tulsa. They consider that West Tulsa. Or, somebody over in East Tulsa. Oh, I can't buy that house. That's in South Tulsa. That's too much, too expensive. Right. Each side has its own stigmas. Oh my goodness, I did it again. Its own stigmas. And so I feel you would carry those over in your ministry as well if you don't live in the community. That's why I feel it's really important to live in the community, because each side of Tulsa is very unique. Even being in Tulsa, I mean, that's another very unique situation, especially which part of Tulsa do you live in? Do you live that 31st Peoria area? Do you live Midtown? Do you live downtown? Do you live over in the Woodland area? Do you live Swan Lake? Like, which area do you live in? Because they're very different as well, just from one neighborhood to another.
Exactly. And so you kind of lose some of that
inside knowledge, that community, hometown feel.
So let's talk about
parsonages. Parsonage. There we go. Parsonage.
The other one.
Yeah. Okay. So, pro.
Yeah.
I actually liked it because church starts at 9. I didn't have to get out of bed till 8:50.
There you go.
Or 8:55 sometimes. Walk right up the hill, and I'm right there. Like I was there all along.
Okay. So I'll immediately con that. You're also right next door to the church, so anytime anybody needs anything, they know, oh, he's just right. I'm at the church. Oh, I need something. Oh, he's just right there. I'll go over and knock on his door.
Yeah, there was a few times that would. Or, hey, I think I forgot my Bible.
Yeah.
Can you go up there?
Can you go unlock the church for me?
Yeah. Yeah, so there were those moments. And a lot of times it was, I'm not home right now.
The church is now an extension of your home.
Yes.
So you got like cool projectors, gaming systems.
Yes.
Just go next door, play them. You don't have to purchase them yourself.
Yep. So when we did live there, I was in the basement, which the basement of our church was the youth room. And it was fully finished. It's actually where the kitchen was, the tables for the anytime we had meals. All that was down there. But yeah, I would spend a lot of time down there. Also, hide and seek in the church at dark, which which I mean, I know we did that here too. We would just have to drive in. I just walk up the hill and I'm there. Mm-hmm. Hey guys, come on over. We'll go into the church and play. So, also pro, you don't have to worry about the bills or the mortgage or anything like that. And so that is a huge just weight and burden and responsibility lifted off your shoulders that you can use that energy somewhere else, because something breaks, church fixes it.
And the church has to be a good landlord because the Lord is their boss.
Yeah, yeah.
So
the church doesn't want to get known as slumlords in the public's eye, because then that will put, not disbelief, but, a sour taste in the community's mouth, and they won't want to come check out your church. So, yeah, you have to.
Well, I would think to add to that is it kind of gives me like the same vibe as like, man, having a work from home job now that I've had one is so hard to leave, even if you hated the job. But the ability, like this is what I'm wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt for my daily work, like my everyday. I know some people can't do it because they need to be around people. And we go to a coffee shop. I go to coffee shop with the guys if we're all feeling like a little stir crazy, but I just say like that's a benefit like that is so hard because you just have like, I don't have to commute every day. I don't have to deal with that stuff. I can you saw my wife had me some chores to do while I'm at work today,
Yeah.
And so, but I can easily do those, knock them out. And what we would normally have to do at 5:30, now it's done before when we get home,
Yeah.
So
that's funny. Real quick, dress code. So a lot of you don't know, so I'll go ahead and break the news. I did get a new job. I'm staying in real estate. I'm just getting another job, and I'll do real estate on the side.
Yeah, because you can always be a real estate agent.
Right. But dress code, I'm so used to dressing up for years. I mean, long before real estate, I've worn slacks and polos. To me, that's just always been my dress code per se. And so I asked about dress code here, and it is kind of more of an office job, but I'll also be out in the field a little. And they said jeans and t-shirt. I'm like, whoa. So I asked if I could wear slacks and polo.
Wait, not just Fridays?
Yeah, not just Friday. I asked if I could wear slacks and polos because this is what I'm comfortable in. And they said no.
That's hilarious.
I can't. I'm like, what? So I have to get a whole new wardrobe.
I got to figure out what jeans to wear.
Well, I never owned jeans.
Yeah.
And so I actually went and spent like 2 hours finding a pair of jeans I liked. Mm-hmm. And then I got them home and I wore them Wednesday and I didn't really love them. So I'm like, and why are jeans $160?
Where you shop? I actually don't know how much jeans are. Probably like 50. I go to Old Navy.
So, I didn't even think about Old Navy. I could go there. I think I'll go there maybe today. Anyways.
Let's go on a shopping trip, guys. Bible Belt Bros, go
first
shopping.
I went to Walmart and got $24 jeans there. Mm-hmm. But those are the ones I got home and I'm like, ooh, these aren't actually. And those are the ones that were comfortable in the store. I tried on all the others and I was like, I can't do them.
Yeah.
But no, I went to Boot Barn, which used to be Drysdale, to get my composite-toed boots, and I was looking at the jeans there.
You don't need man jeans, man. You need to go to like Express or something that's a little like, has like a different kind of fabric. You know what I mean? Because it's a fabric.
Dude,
thing.
If I showed up in Express skinny jeans... I'd get kicked off the job site day one.
Oh, that'd be so funny.
My man card would be taken so fast.
Yeah. Man, I can't get... None of these jeans are comfortable like slacks. I've been going to the cowboy store. That's what I'm hearing. I'm going to where Brett Favre shops, and he's like real comfortable jeans. It's like, they're not...
What does he sell? Does he sell Wrangler?
I think so. I think he's one of those.
Well, that's what I bought. Maybe I should try Levi's. I don't know. Anyways, back to parsonages. We're still on pros. So far, there's a lot of pros, is what I'm hearing.
Well, and the benefit and probably how the parsonages started was the same idea, right? Like somebody moves to your town, it might be more expensive cost of living there than what they're used to, and like, they can't even afford a house, and so now you're moving. But I think even then, for the church itself, it is easy to quote unquote compete in a market of good youth pastors because
or pastors.
Yeah, I guess I'm always saying youth pastors, but or pastors, but you can kind of compete in that market because for us especially, we have bigger churches down the road, bigger salaries. But if you actually take what most people spend on their house and maintaining their house every year, if you take that off the salary, like financially the burden, like I grew up in a church of 500 people, there's no way they could have paid all those salaries for the people that they had to have on staff. But with a house that then over time it is paid for, it is like little cost to the church, but they're giving a huge benefit back from it,
Yeah, the benefit outweighs the cost, in my opinion.
Exactly. And so over time, like obviously if you're trying to buy a house now to create a parsonage, it's a little different. You're going to have to pay off that house. You're going to have to do that kind of thing. But over time, like the church now builds equity, and then they can kind of just be able to kind of compete in the market a little bit. You don't have to be a big mega church to provide the type of quote unquote lifestyle, I guess, as maybe like one of those bigger church pastors would have.
Yeah. Now a parsonage say our church gets a parsonage versus one of the mega churches down the road. If they got a parsonage, that parsonage would still be significantly larger. Yes, I understand the premise of your statement. It's a great way to offer benefit at a minimal cost. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it doesn't, and then that money's not coming out of the pocket of said pastor coming in, which is nice,
right?
Because even with, I mean, if you're doing a housing allowance or housing whatever you called it, then that pastor still has to worry and stress about the tax side of it.
Right.
And they're still paying out of pocket for it. They're just getting a deduction on the back end. And as quote unquote cost of living increases, so then their salary needs to increase. Right.
But if you had
a parsonage,
you've already kind of locked yourself in that cost of living expenses.
I'm all for parsonages. Matter of fact, I feel our church should have one. because
here's a negative that we didn't talk about.
Okay.
And we kind of made it a negative for housing allowance in general. If you're not there long enough, then you're upside down on a house. I think the same thing is if you're a pastor or youth pastor and you go to work at a church and you live in a parsonage, you lose your job. There's a stress of, because most of the time, the wives don't work in that situation. A lot of times youth pastor wives don't work, or if they do, it is not a full-time job.
Right, because, they just moved or they're used to moving around.
Right, and ideally at that point, they're starting a family and a lot of, especially in the Christian community, wives stay home kind of thing. But with all that to say, so when they lose their job, they lose their house, and there's the major stress of they can't get a loan for a brand new house. None of them are employed, so you lose a lot of things if you lose your job at a church because your housing is tied to it as well. And now I know that they'll give a leeway of like, oh, you have 3 months, or whatever. But it's really awkward because they're also trying to get a new guy in, and they're trying to give them the parsonage.
Well, it's awkward because usually you're getting fired.
It's already like...
And you're living in your employer's house, essentially.
Yeah, but then you can't afford even to rent a place. Yeah, you're going to need like first month's rent and all this stuff. You're going to have this huge expense that you didn't have in your budget already. And you don't have the money because you weren't getting paid that kind of money for that. You're getting paid by living here was one of the, you know what I mean? So there's a little bit there where it does get kind of sticky in those weird, awkward situations.
Yeah, because you're scrambling around to see if another church will hire you, in hopes that they have a parsonage that you can move into in that 2 to 3 month time frame.
Can you prepay me so I can move out there? Because I have no money. That would be awkward. And so then that puts the church in a weird situation because you want to do right by everybody. At some point, somebody's going to feel shafted.
Right.
And if it's like having the current youth pastor or the new guy coming in have to live in a hotel for a bit, or like how that ends up working.
Yeah, or maybe the church rents a house, or today Airbnb
them. Yeah, true. That's something that you could do in that. But that's like hoping that, okay, they're still getting out of there soon, you know? So I've seen that before. I've seen youth pastors fired and they're living in the parsonages, and it was just kind of weird. I can't imagine now, like as an adult, the stress of not only do I not have a job and have to find one quick, I also have to figure out how to move. And I don't know where I'm going to move, so I don't even know where I could. Ideally, you're trying to wait till you find a job to know where you want to move. You're not going to move again. So it just become a weird situation, and I'm sure no matter how you do it, church hurt ends up happening in those kind of situations.
Which, I mean, in that, say you're a youth pastor at a lower income church and you're moving up to and I say moving up, you've
been promoted.
Yeah, you've been promoted to the mega church, to the, a larger church in a community that the area that the houses cost more. I mean, you're kind of that same boat. Mm-hmm. Unless, say you live in a suburb and you can
be harder for you to save up the money for down payments and those kind of things.
But say you're going from, Iowa, St. Charles, Iowa, and you're going to New York. Mm-hmm. Obviously, you can't just make that move because cost of living is tremendously different there. So you're kind of the same boat. You're going to have to, hope the church will either have a parsonage for you, maybe rent something for you,
have a moving allowance of some sort.
Yeah.
But again, like you're trying to find a new job within a month or two.
Right.
And that's hard to do.
Yeah. Now, luckily, jobs these days, a lot of them are remote. So you can do work from home.
Remote pastor.
No, not pastor.
It'll be a remote youth pastor.
The spouses.
Oh, gotcha.
The wives.
Oh, so you're saying women get to work?
Now they do.
Home. Yeah, that's true.
So
they have side hustle gigs.
Yeah, back in the day when we were growing up, not so much. Mm-hmm. Now I actually say this: first pastor, no. Second pastor, yes. Second pastor that I know of, I'm pretty sure there were only 2 pastors at First Baptist when you were there too. Yeah, there was only 2. So the first pastor, his wife didn't work.
Talking about David?
Yeah.
Correct.
But the second one, Tim, his wife did work.
Okay.
And she made really good money. But she did the traveling. She did a traveling job. That also makes sense. So yeah, that worked out for them. And then I don't know who was after them or after him, because I think we were gone.
Did that church have, that church didn't have a parsonage, did it?
No, that one did not.
Okay. Sorry, guys. Relive in memory lane here. I'm trying to remember who the heck he's talking about.
Yeah. Well, I was trying not to do names.
Well, so I don't know where we land. I think parsonages are a great idea for sure, and especially a guy like you in real estate, you could probably, the benefits long term for having something like that would be good for the church to utilize.
Yes, for the church, yes. And it depends on how long a pastor stays, if it's beneficial for said pastor. If they're planning on being here a long time, then they're going to want the housing allowance.
Yeah, they're going to want to try to store up some treasures on earth.
Correct. Whereas, yeah, I mean, it is correct. They're going to want to build up their own equity so that should something happen, they can sell that house and they have money to live off of in the mid-while.
And if their family changes.
Right.
I think that's a lot of it too, is depending on the parsonage's house, if they're just buying a cheap house with like 2-3 bedrooms, you're not going to fit very many people in there, especially if you're expecting a youth pastor to like hang out with kids after school or whatever and have a place for them to be, like that kind of thing. Like you need a bigger spot.
It is. I see both sides of the coin. Being in real estate, it's a great investment for the church. The church can save some money long term if they buy the house. Plus, now the church is getting the equity of that property. That, should something happen and they need liquid cash, they could sell that parsonage and they have cash now.
Or refinance it or whatever.
You're right.
Refinance it for a building project.
Right. So, but again, if the pastor's there a long time, they want their own. If they're, they're a youth pastor, they plan on just staying there for, a season or two, then yeah, they would rather have the parsonage and then move on. I see pros and cons on both sides. Ultimately, I am for the parsonage because it's an additional benefit that a church can offer. And, typically you can move in right away.
Well, and ideally, you could start with the parsonage. Like, you don't have to have a parsonage per person, but you could start adding a parsonage style to your church. And then at that point, like maybe a pastor's been there for a while and knows he's going to be there for a while, and family dynamics change. He doesn't need as much space or needs more space. And so they can make that switch. And then another staff member has that ability to come into that parsonage or,
right.
Like even our comedy club in town, Looney Bin, I think they're known for, they have an apartment that part of the people that come in and travel through town, they don't have to stay in a hotel, and they're able to be like, hey, now we have this house. They can just stay in this house. That saves them the $100+ whatever a night that they're in town.
Our church actually had that temporarily.
Oh, we did?
Yeah, we did.
Guest speakers coming in and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's a great idea. It's a great thing. I think Shay's work, my wife's work, even had they had talked about doing that because they had a guy that would travel in like once a month or something like that. And so it's still better to just have a little apartment that's already set up for him than it would have been to get a hotel every time he came down. So just little things like that. Like it makes sense. It doesn't have to be even a huge house, like per se, it can be something a little smaller when it's just kind of short-term stays. But anyways, interesting. I don't see it very often, but maybe it's because we're in Tulsa and you just don't hear about it very often.
I just don't think you hear about it. I see it. I drive by churches all the time in the Tulsa area. As a matter of fact, there's 2 down the road that have parsonages.
Okay.
And so, and I know they are because one is a Catholic
well, our church meets in a shopping center, so maybe that is why.
Yeah, that's true.
Where would we put a parsonage? On our land. We don't have land.
But our church could still own a parsonage.
Yeah,
because it doesn't necessarily have to be on your church grounds.
Well, no, it
just
doesn't.
Nearby.
It would be nice, kind of like a commune, basically. Just have like a little neighborhood where you have 3 or 4, and they all kind of live next to each other.
And they share gardens and all that.
They share garden, yeah, and swimming
goodness,
pool,
Dusty.
The parsonages and pear trees. That's the title of the.
Who would have thought we could talk 40 minutes over parsonages?
I honestly, I was like, do you have any other things you want to bring up? I was like saying, hey, this is what I got, but there's no way we're talking about it this long. I'll listen back to it. We probably rambled about the same thing over and over again. Who knows? But thanks for listening, liking, subscribing, sharing, and we'll see you next time.
Take it easy.